You gotta love funk drumming. It's a style where when everything's feeling good and it's in the pocket, you get this overwhelming urge to scrunch up your face as though you just smelled something just terrible coming out of the trash can. What you're seeing here is a rare condition known as stank face, and thankfully it is not permanent. In fact, it's actually a crowning achievement for a drummer to induce stank face in someone that's listening to them play. So today we're gonna check out 10 must-know funk beats to get you guys going in the right direction with this style, so maybe one day you could give someone that coveted stank face reaction. Now, fair warning, these aren't gonna be grooves like Superstition and Sissy Strut. We're gonna save those famous funk beats for another time soon. I wanna instead start out with some more fundamental beats to set a foundation for you guys to build from. If you can get these down, then you'll be able to cover the vast majority of the funk music that's out there. All right, let's get into them. Our first example is the pocket beat. This groove is funk drumming 101. You've got the ghost notes on the snare, those open hi-hats, and a classic bass drum pattern all coming together to create a killer feel. And this is a key aspect to a lot of funk drumming. It's all about textures and layers. So it's a matter of being able to juggle all those different elements at once without it sounding clunky. All right, next up we've got the swung pocket beat. This groove has another really common funkism in it, and that's the swing feel. It's important to keep in mind that the early funk drummers were jazz and R&B drummers at heart. So a lot of the grooves they played borrowed elements from those styles, in this case, the swing feel. Next up, we've got a couple grooves that add a little bit of sauce to the hi-hats. First up is the broken 16ths beat. Spicing up the hi-hat pattern is another super common technique used in funk drumming. And you'll see that it takes quite a bit of finger technique and independence to pull these kinds of grooves off, so be patient with it. The key is to stay loose and try to keep your hands nice and light. If you're overplaying, you'll tire out really quickly. All right, next up we've got another groove with some sustenance on the hats. This is the jazz ride beat. With this one, we're again borrowing from those jazz and R&B roots and using a version of the jazz ride pattern on the hi-hats. This gives the groove a killer lope for the rest of the band to lock into, which has got to be why it's used in so many classic recordings. Moving right along, our next example is the 16th note beat. This is one of those beats that really separates the pros from everyone else. You have to first figure out the mechanics of those fast 16th notes on the hats. Then you've got to mix in the kick and snare and make it all sound smooth. It's no easy task, and I'd recommend looking up the molar stroke technique if you're struggling with that hi-hat part. Up next, we're gonna swing those 16th notes, so I'm gonna call this the swung 16th note beat. This is another deceptively tricky groove to lock in. You can again use that same molar stroke technique on the hats. Just make sure and keep your hands nice and light, again, so you don't burn them out. Once you get it dialed in, the beat will have a nice bounce to it. And for our next two beats, we're gonna move both hands to the hats. This is the disco beat. Now I know we all, without exception, absolutely hate disco. We really hate disco, sorry Dad. But you absolutely have to have a disco beat in your funk bag of tricks. The toughest part with this one is making those accents on the hats really pop out while the non-accented notes are played softly. All right, next up we're gonna swing those 16th notes and change up the accent pattern. This is the go-go beat. Now the go-go beat always gets the crowd moving. There's something about it, and I think this is the one where you're really gonna get that stank bass reaction if you can lock it in. To practice it, I'd highly recommend starting with just the hand pattern and then slowly working in the bass drum as you get comfortable with it. For this next one, we're gonna take those swung 16th notes and put them on the snare. This is the second line beat. I had to have a New Orleans style beat on this list. Not only does it sound killer, but it also gives you a nice alternative to those more straightforward grooves, and it helps to build up the independence between your hands and feet as well. And for our last example, I've got another one that's a little off the beaten path. This is the syncopated beat. This groove is a staple in funk music. It was popularized by James Brown and his drummers back in the day, and it hasn't lost any steam since. Syncopation simply means offbeat rhythms. So within this groove, what's syncopated are the backbeats on the snare. Instead of just being on 2 and 4 like normal, the groove alternates from having them on 2 and the and of 4 and 2 and 4, giving it its distinctive syncopated feel. All right, that's gonna do it for this one, everybody. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I'll have the transcription and practice loops for these beats linked down below if you want to shed over them at home. Thanks as always for watching, and I will see you next time. You take it easy. Bye-bye.